feasibility, valuation, and the feasibility is an important step into kind of the education exploration phase and going into more detail and learning more about the business. And all right, let's layer in the transaction. Let's see how the company is able to manage their cash flows. And those are important things to review before you make a decision. This is a decision point for selling shareholder. Now the feasibility study is completed, what are some things that you want to look out for? One, obviously, that we've talked about, it's in a highly levered asset. Can the company cash flow the debt? Now, what are some of the other objectives the company have? Maybe there's an expansion strategy the company is looking to employ in the next 2 to 5 years. Do the company have the cash flow flexibility to do so? Do they have an acquisition-related growth profile? So that's managing the expectation, understanding the business model, and finding a balance, between your strategic goals of the business, where the company is going to achieve, but also, layering in the transaction and what are the impacts as it relates to the transaction. And then the number 3 there really is a big point, right? Does it meet the employee benefit goals? The whole reason of doing an ESOP is to provide, employees a benefit and a share in the ownership of the business moving forward. And setting up a transaction and structuring a transaction, it's very important that those elements are looked at. Then the employees are achieving what they set out to do, the goals of the company. Employees are benefiting from what's being set up in there, and it's an important part of their transaction. And then we're also, looking at where the growth dynamics, what happens on a stress test scenario. We'll run different criteria as it relates to the modeling. Like if the company has a downturn or an economic downturn that it's outside of the company's control, what are the impacts to the company's cash flow? So it's important to, in this stage, and be an iterative process, understanding different objectives. What are the valuation impacts? What are the impacts to the shareholder standpoint? What are the impacts to the employees and benefits standpoint? So it's an important stage, and this is where you will see shareholders, make a decision. Do they want to move forward with their transaction? Does this make sense for them standpoint?
And then this is the one area where we talked about the process maybe being 45 to 60 days, for valuation feasibility, and really the feasibility end is where you can see some delay, or just extension of that time, because if there's a lot of questions that need to be answered, and we go through another iteration, and that creates sort of another set of questions, and you go through another iteration, and you can get to almost a situation where you got sort of analysis paralysis. But those are good conversations to have, because if there's any concerns with the deal, it's better to have those sort of vetted through and thought about and discussed with the group prior to us going out effectively to a trustee and start sort of marketing the transaction and the company to them. And so again, it makes for a more sound plan if you have all of those done. And if it takes another month, to nail that down and get a sort of a blueprint and a structure that makes sense, it's well worth the extra time, because it's going to cost you in the end through negotiations if some of those concerns come up, or if something changes that needs to be reworked, which could delay and cost, legal fees and things of that nature. So anything that we can do prior, the better. And if you think about where we are in the process, we during kickoff, we caught the ball on education. We're at feasibility, so we're still on our 30-yard line, and so we still have a long way to go before we ultimately score that touchdown.